and I actually managed to interview friend of the show, BadEmpanada. Do not worry, the podcast. And now we're just going to move on to the BadEmpanada interview. So check that out. I hope you guys enjoy it. He was a really lovely dude to talk to. Folks, we are joined by BadEmpanada, the man himself, joining us from Argentina. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the podcast. How's it going?
I'm very good. It's very good to be here on the official podcast of Lebanese state and also the terrorist group Hezbollah.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear it. Thank you for that description. We hope we do not get demonetized because of it. Thank you, BadEmpanada. A great start. I just a quick question just to start things off. How sick are you of talking about Ethan Klein?
It's okay when it's like sort of a good excuse to talk about a broader topic, but just really boring because he doesn't actually really talk about stuff. And he, at least the first few times, he sort of tried to make arguments. Now he's just like screaming anti-Semitism at everyone. So kind of very sick.
I know, and it's like I thought it would end pretty quickly, but he seems, I don't know like how familiar you are with Ethan and like how he handles drama, but like his drama with Trisha Paytas is still ongoing. His lawsuit with Ryan Kavanaugh, he's been talking about that for like 2.5 years maybe or something like that. So if he's going to follow in the same footsteps with Hassan, we might be in this for a year, 2 years. So like I don't know how often I want to cover this, but
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's not going to really move on to like the first couple of times it was like an opportunity to talk about sort of like, you know, what does terrorist mean? How does it make any sense that this person is called a terrorist when this other person isn't? And like, there was also an opportunity to talk about the Nakba. Like, I started just sort of making fun of him because he had like a video that I saw. It was like my entry into this whole thing where he was like talking about how like George W. Bush is super wholesome because he paints from years ago.
yeah.
And then I started looking at the rest of it, and it's just like, okay, this is like a good opportunity to like get some eyes on like you know, more important topics. And now it's just like he's just like throwing out like the dumbest slander and defamation every 2 seconds. And he's no longer really talking about anything serious. So it's like kind of
He's completely lost.
outstayed his welcome.
So when was that? Like when was that George Bush video? So like when did you become
I
familiar with Ethan Klein?
I saw it like maybe 2 months ago. Let me check.
Okay, so
Just to be exact,
so
like
that
two-ish, 3-ish months ago. And that was like around the time I think that he started like his whole anti-Hassan thing. And
sort
that
of.
was like sort of my entry into that. And then I just saw like I saw him like screaming at the Yemeni guy that Hassan talked
Yeah.
to. And it's like, and I knew by that point what Hila had done in the IDF, and it's like, okay, how the fuck does it make any sense for you to call this guy a terrorist based on practically nothing when you're married to a fucking IDF veteran? So
I
that
know.
was my entry into it. And now he just complains like this guy, like Hassan is associating with this guy who called Hila a terrorist, and he doesn't even try to elaborate on why that's bad, why it's wrong. He just acts like it should by default be like impermissible when he's been slandering this guy as a terrorist for months.
Well, he never really responds to anyone that can make like a cogent argument. So he's just going to call you names like he's been doing, and I don't think he's ever going to address anything you've said.
Oh yeah, I learned that already. That's why I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, exactly. So like I don't even think he's seen any of my videos yet. He probably has no idea who I am. But like I like you're
I
one of
think
the,
he mentioned you as in his story a couple of times, didn't he?
I did appear in the stories, but like he never mentioned me by name. I was just a guest on the Arabs pod, so with Frogan, Capri, and Raf, who were all three of them were on the Sabra Hummus panel that got them banned
Hmm.
off of Twitch and all of that sort of thing. So I'm friends with them digitally. So I was on an episode with them. We were talking about how Israelis are always appropriating Arab food. He went crazy about how we were saying that hummus is
Yeah, I responded to
Arab
that in the
dish.
Nakba video.
Yeah, yeah. So he was pretty angry that we were saying that hummus is Arab. So he again sort of lost his mind.
Yeah, it's a great argument by him there. Like, I don't know, him and other Israelis, and I will call him Israeli. He does really doesn't like it when you call him Israeli, even though he literally isn't Israeli, by the way. I noticed that. But him and other Israelis, like it's yeah, you know, it's fine to say that like Arab Jews ate the same food. Yeah, but there's a difference between that and saying it's Israeli now, you know? Because you know, there's Arabs everywhere in the world. I don't call Arab food, you know, I don't call fucking hummus Australian. There's like millions of Arabs in Australia. How does that make any sense?
Exactly. Or
The
like
argument's just so dumb.
Indian cuisine in England. Like it's not all of a sudden British cuisine now because like Indian people in England are making it. It's still Indian food.
Yeah,
So people
it just
call
doesn't
it.
make any sense. And the whole reason that comes up is because they want to deny that they're Arab in the first place. They don't want to acknowledge it. So they just call it Israeli instead.
Like, and I just wanted to ask, so like, I mean, I discovered you through this whole Ethan Klein thing. So if there's one positive, is that I've been finding a lot of other creators online. I just saw you did like a collaboration with Uninformed Leftist, who's also his channel has been growing a lot just because of mainly
Hmm.
because of Ethan. He's been covering the Ethan drama a lot. So
Yeah.
there's like the Vanguard they've been that have been covering it as well. I don't know if you watch them. They do like a lot of political commentary, they and like drama commentary. Ethan's Basement, who literally used to be an Ethan Klein fan channel who used to make just compilations of H3, made a whole like video critiquing Ethan and like his descent into madness. So it's just been kind of funny how H3 views are dropping, literally dropping, and I can see where all those views are going. Like they're literally being split amongst all these new little creators. And I mean, you've been around for a while. You have a lot more subscribers
Hmm.
than we do, but it's just been fun. Like, how did you come across our video? Like, I'm curious because you left a comment on my first Ethan Klein video, and a lot of people were like, "Yo, BadEmpanada is fucking like talking to
I
you."
don't
And
remember exactly. I think someone linked it in my Discord or something. I'm not 100% sure.
it was a very pleasant surprise because like I was literally watching your video the day before, and I'm like, it's just and like the H3 Snark Reddit that I think they don't like mentioning you, I guess, because you've been deemed too controversial. You're too dangerous for Reddit. Like
Good.
that's
That's a
how
I like that. That's a
I
good
know
label.
that's but I love when the thumbs up show up on Zoom. It's like every time it
I
happens.
really don't understand what's going on with that, but it's cool. It's fine.
Anytime you do a thumbs up, like the software, half the time it kind of recognizes it. It'll give you a thumbs up.
Wow, what an amazing application.
It doesn't work when you need it to. You know what I mean? Like the way I guess I
Yeah.
define like the Ethan versus Hassan thing, it is interpersonal, parasocial YouTube drama, but at the very least, it's tied to a very sort of pertinent issue that at least we can draw attention. We can use that YouTube drama to talk about Palestine and Israel and what's happening over there. So as long as I feel
Yeah.
like there's something behind it that we can a broader message to kind of point to, I think it's okay. That's kind of how I've been justifying the whole Ethan versus Hassan thing. Also, it's just fun poaching his audience. Literally, like my channel used to only appeal to
Yeah.
Lebanese people, and like Lebanon has a huge diaspora. A lot of us live everywhere, like around the world. So I would get like some views from Lebanese people living abroad. Literally now, half my audience is coming from like North America. I got people watching from Australia, from like the UK. Most of them Fallen fans, H3 fans, and like our audience used to be 70% male and 30% female. It's now 51% female and 48% male. And like I literally, I'm like right now, my biggest anxiety is like, how do I keep this new audience and how do I keep them interested? Because I used to talk about
Mm.
things that are completely unrelated to Hassan and H3, and I just talk about like weird random Lebanese drama, and now I have the stress of appealing to a Western audience. And the only reason I switched to English was just when the war started. I was like, I just want to speak in English so that I can kind of cover the war in
Yeah.
Lebanon and talk about it and have everyone understand. And now we're kind of stuck in this little.
Committed to it. Yeah, I mean, I think Ethan, for example, he complained on his Instagram story that like Hassan platformed me and he made my channel blow up and all of this. But no, it's not that. It's not that. It's that like he is inadvertently expanding the audience of a ton of people who are just like sort of using him as a springboard to talk to refute him on very important points as to what's going on in the Middle East right now, obviously. And he doesn't really realize that, but he's having like this massively positive effect in like boosting a ton of people who are talking about really important things that he would prefer they didn't talk about. So, I made a video on my second channel, like just I made Ethan Klein his own song called "Thank You, Ethan Klein,"
I love
because
that song.
he helped me out and he's helped you out. He's helping everyone out. Thank you, Ethan.
And he's indirectly helping Palestine. So actually, he might actually be a hero for the Palestinian cause. Like
Mm.
inadvertently, he's like supplying all these people with all these creators that are.
He really doesn't realize it that he's helping to disseminate exactly what he doesn't want to.
Well, there's these other two creators that I honestly just only recently discovered. Like the first time I heard of Destiny was when I was watching his debate with the Norm Finkelstein and the Loner Box. I know you have sort of a long history with these two dudes. I just recently had a minor spat on Twitter with Loner Box. Sort of like, what's your history with these two guys? And Destiny's embroiled in some kind of weird controversy right now. We don't need to get into that, but
Well, Destiny's some guy who went from playing video games to debating politics. Um, and I've been an unperson for him. Like he doesn't talk about me anymore since like 3 years ago, where I debated him on colonization in general, like just colonialism, and he looked like a child who never heard of the concept before. And Lonerbox was some guy who was like a liberal Zionist, though this was like 2 years ago. No one really realized that he was a liberal Zionist, and I called him out for it. and he kind of got away with it because everyone's just like, oh, come on. Like he says West Bank settlements are bad. He says he acknowledges the Nakba happened. What more do you want from him? So
Mhm.
like I got accused of being an anti-Semite for calling him out on that for like years, and then the Gaza genocide happened, and it kind of sucks. But I guess that's what it took for people to realize who these people really are. I don't know. Like he's from a Maronite family, and I mean, they're not like super committed to like Falangism or anything, but there's certainly an association, and I don't really see the way how someone like that could become what he is unless there is some sort of like familial bias involved there, you know?
There is a very sort of an extreme Christian section of the population here in Lebanon that like hates Hezbollah, that fought against the Palestinians a few decades ago. But I mean that's a whole complicated issue. But speaking of complicated issues, and now that we have you here and you're a pretty seasoned political and historical sort of commentator, the situation in Syria right now is extremely confusing. And for most people that are watching,
Yeah.
they've just spent the last year learning about Palestine and like getting to know the basics. Could you give us just a quick overview of what's going down in Syria right now? Because like the internet is all over the place. So like if you support Palestine, but if you don't support Bashar al-Assad, you're like a traitor to the cause. And people who are supporting Bashar al-Assad are being called out. People don't know what to think of what's happening. Can you kind of quickly break it down to us? What is currently happening in Syria? What should people think of this whole
Well,
situation?
I don't think that anyone should take what I say about Syria as like the word from a seasoned expert on Syria or anything. All that I know is that HTS, whose full name I've already forgotten, is a split from the Al Nusra Front,
Mhm.
which was an Al Qaeda affiliate. And I don't know precisely what happened in like the intermediate years, during the sort of cold point of the war. For the last 2 or 3 years, it's been pretty uneventful.
Mhm.
But they have suddenly sort of surfaced, and now they are contributing the vast majority of the fighters to the rebel factions. Previously, that was not really the case. I get most of my news on Syria from Kurdish sources because the Kurds just fight everyone, and I feel like that's probably the least biased source to get it from. And the Kurds are calling them Turkish-backed mercenaries, which I mean I don't think is true, but they clearly don't like them very much.
Mhm.
They're not just fighting government troops; they're also fighting the SDF, which is the Kurdish army. And I don't know, it seems really confusing, difficult to understand what is going on, difficult to understand like who's the least bad side here versus a former Al Qaeda affiliate and the Assad government, and then you also have like a third faction who is like the Kurds who are sort of trying to like negotiate on autonomy between everyone, including Turkey, who are also backing HTS. And I
It's
don't
a
know. It's a hyper confusing situation, and shit's changing extremely fast. Shit is going down. Like they've taken the second biggest city in Syria in a matter of days.
It is. It is. The way I kind of see it, the way I kind of understand it, and I could be completely off base, is that it's basically like ISIS 2.0 right now. Like if I think we should be like, I don't like Assad at all. One of my best friends is Syrian. His family fled Syria because of the Assad regime and all of that. But like, I think in this case of the lesser of two evils, and I'm not a lesser of two evils fan, but like, I think we should probably support Bashar al-Assad against like what seems to be like a terrorist uprising or like at least like in my opinion or like a second version of ISIS, and they might want to try to come into Lebanon and destabilizing the whole region, and they might be doing this now because Hezbollah has been kind of weakened in their eyes, so Hezbollah isn't there to maybe fight them the way they might have been able to. It might also sort of decrease the flow of weapons from Syria into Lebanon. So the timing of this just seems very suspect right after the ceasefire in Lebanon and right after all the aggressions against Hezbollah for this to be happening right now. So it does seem to be like Israel and the US are directly involved in the funding of these forces and rebels that are fighting the
Hmm.
Assad government. So that could be an explanation. I am the farthest thing from a political expert or like an expert on fucking Syria. This thing is extremely confusing, but that's what I've kind of tried to gather so far. So it seems bad. It seems very bad for sure. Is all,
Yeah, I mean,
I
they're,
could.
they're going to clip the part where you said that we should support Assad. I mean, I wouldn't say we should support him, but in this
Oh no,
situation, I don't know. Like HTS is sufficiently bad that even like Western countries designate them as a terrorist group. I'm not sure if the West wanted them to become the dominant rebel faction. And by the way, they're not even a part of the main. rebel umbrella group. They're a part of their own umbrella group solely for like Islamist groups.
Yeah.
So that's how bad they are. Like they're even worse than the normal Islamists. So to me, yeah, I don't know what to think. I don't know what I should be hoping for. But like this is like one of the worst case scenarios. Like I don't think they are as bad as ISIS, but like they're not that much better. And it's not a good thing they have become a dominant faction from previously being in a position where, you know, they were just kind of contributing to a much broader coalition of groups. And at this point, like I don't even really want to make any pronouncements. I don't know who to support. Like the only group
Oh, yeah,
in
no.
this who themselves, I wouldn't say I support. Like like the least of all the evils are like the Kurdish factions. Like they're the most agreeable because they don't really ask for that much. You know, they're like, okay, if and I don't care who wins, just give us an autonomous region, thank you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's really easy to not be against that. And they fight just sort of fight everyone. And I don't know, but I don't really, I don't want to make any like concrete pronouncements like yes, let's back Assad
Oh
or
yeah, no.
whatever.
And just to clarify, I do not back Assad. It's funny how you think no one's gonna clip this. Like I'm not at a
This
point
is
where
going on Ethan Klein's story.
I'm not at a point where people are clipping me so far or out of context. If that starts happening, in fact, I'll be pretty happy if I start getting clip chimped.
Yeah,
That's
I guess that is a good idea. That's a good
that's pretty cool.
indication.
Well, I had a quick question, just a fun little thing. No, not a fun little thing, but like something that I want to get your opinion on. Movies in Lebanon are getting banned because of like having Israeli actors in them or something. So Gladiator 2 just got banned because there's an actor in there that used to be in the IDF. And Venom 3, which I'm sure you're super interested in, also got banned because apparently the producer Avi Arad used to be in the IDF back in the 60s and even fought in like the 10 Days War or something back in the 60s. And he produces basically every single Spider-Man related movie that comes out. Now, they always used to come
Mhm.
out, but now I guess they're taking it more seriously. Anytime a Gal Gadot movie comes out, it gets banned in Lebanon. We don't get any of those. Sort of, what do you think about banning movies starring Israelis? Do you think more countries should start, not Israelis at least? I mean, I think it's kind of a slippery slope. I think if someone happens to be Israeli, like let's say Natalie Portman or something, like it's fine, release the movie because I mean, movie theaters are already kind of struggling as it is when you're stopping every major blockbuster from coming out. But at least IDF soldiers, like that's, I think that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I used to. So when they banned Wonder Woman a few years ago, I kind of complained about that, and I used to be like, it should be up to the consumer. You know, if you want to boycott it, more power to you. I fully support that. But if someone else who just wants to go watch Wonder Woman or a movie theater wants to play it and try to make some money off of it, they should be able to. But now I've gone full 180 on that. I'm more than happy to ban that shit. We don't need to be watching Venom 3 or Gladiator 2. I hear they're both pretty shit anyways. But sort of what's your take on that? Is Lebanon based for
I mean that's good. It should be far more extensive than that. Like basically any like IDF veteran should be banned from everything everywhere in the world. 100%. Not just movies, everything boycotted. This is like a means of pressure. It's a part of it should be a part of BDS. By BDS, I just mean like the concept rather than the specific BDS organization. Like boycotting, Israeli products, boycotting Israelis, for example, like Israelis who are like public figures who are pro-Israel, stuff like that, former IDF members, stuff like that, in any sphere, like fucking just blanket ban on IDF veterans doing tourism anywhere in the world. I'm all for stuff like that. It's the sort of thing that like I don't think like the boycott of South Africa ever went that far, but it didn't go that far because it didn't need to. In this case, something like that would absolutely be warranted 100%. Like this is the way that you put pressure on a country to force it to change what it's doing, stuff like that. You hit them where it hurts. Now, as to getting anyone to actually participate in this, Israel is very uniquely protected by the West, which makes doing so incredibly impractical in many situations. The US even has laws like against boycotting Israel. What a fucking joke that is. Even on like an individual basis, it's not allowed. Yeah, I think like on a moral level, it's fine. As to whether it's possible or practical to do, it would be. It would be. But as long as like the Western Bloc remains so united in favor of Israel, it's difficult to pull off.
actually, let me see if Ethan is live streaming right now. It's Monday. There should be a new H3 episode coming out because Frogan did a podcast with Bath Hasbara on last
Oh
week,
yeah.
and like
He's
it drove Ethan insane because the host of that podcast, insane. Like the best part is that he is an anti-Zionist Jewish man. So that is the like kryptonite to Ethan's argument because like
the one insult that he has is gone. Shit. Oh
exactly
no, he'll probably just call him a capo. He has two insults. He has those two. Anti-Semitic and capo.
He called them a scumbag on Instagram stories.
Close enough.
There's one more question that I want to ask you because you mentioned this in our chat once and it sounded pretty cryptic. You told me like, do you want to talk about Lebanese people living in Australia? So first of all, I take it that you
Yeah.
lived in Australia, you're Australian. What is it about Lebanese people in Australia? What's the deal? What do we do over there? I know there's a massive Lebanese population there. Like there's this
Yeah.
lady on TikTok who makes like donuts who's very famous that I see. I forget what they're called, but she has like this crazy brand of donuts. But I know so many Lebanese people in Australia. What are we up to over there? Do you guys hate us or do you guys are we a cherished part of Australian society?
Well, yeah, I think it's a Lebanese podcast, so I might as well represent Lebanese people, even though I'm not Lebanese. Do some cultural appropriation. So, like in Australia, like, late 80s, early 90s, like tons of Lebanese and Iraqi immigrants as well started coming over.
Hmm.
And this was around the time that like the first and second generation of Europe, like Southern European migrants from like mostly Italy and Greece, Malta as well, were like coming in to Australia. So like the Lebanese immigrants, brought their kids over, and we sort of grew up with them, like the second generation, the kids of the Southern European migrants.
Hmm.
And I'm from like a neighborhood that was like basically nothing but migrants. Like I think still today, like 60% of people who live there speak English as a second language, something like that.
Cool.
Just like the Italians, the Greeks, the Lebanese, the Iraqis, everyone just sort of fused together into like this one sort of amalgamation of a culture there. And I think like the best like example of that is like this absolutely horrible like early 2000s Australian comedy called Fat Pizza that everyone there loves.
Oh my God.
And like the lead actor is like it's a Lebanese character, like who's like a ridiculous self stereotype exaggeration of like the WOG they called it, which is like this amalgamation of like all these immigrant groups that sort of grew up together in the same neighborhoods.
Okay.
And it's a Lebanese character played by a Maltese actor pretending to be Lebanese. And then like all the rest of the cast is basically the same situation, like a Greek playing a Turk, like stuff like that.
I love it already.
And it's beautiful. It's fantastic. The show is horrible. It didn't age well, but like, if anyone wants to like get a little piece of like not just Lebanese culture in Australia, but like that sort of weird like fusion of a bunch of different cultures of like kids who all grew up together in the same neighborhoods and rather than hating each other, all sort of fused together into forming this one sort of identity. That is like what I would recommend. It has not aged well at all. When I watch it now, like it hurts, but at the time, it was the greatest thing in the world.
So Fat Pizza is what it's called.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's clips on YouTube, but do not watch them. They're horrible.
I mean, based on what Ethan says about you, you seem like a completely just nice and chill dude to talk to. I mean, this has been a really nice conversation. It's been really nice to meet you. I mean, I genuinely and thank you for like for just like commenting on the videos and checking them out and talking about the channel because and talking about Lebanon and what's happening in Palestine and everything because as you know, the mainstream media in the States is fucking crazy. The only
Yep.
voices, the only outlets have been online outlets and people like you, people on Twitter, basically. Like it's been extremely hopeless. And when the war started in Lebanon, like, dude, I thought we were gonna be next. Like, honestly, genuinely, part of me thought that they were gonna Gaza the whole fucking country. And the only reason I switched like to English was like I just need to get the story out there. I just need to get the word out there. Because it felt really desperate. So it's nice to have people like you, and you are so unabashedly anti-Israel that it's kind of like hilarious. Like you're such an amazing troll. You've also been like a perfect foil for Ethan Klein. So if anything, I'm happy this crash out is happening because it's giving people like you a bigger platform. And I love the fact that like the video, I think that they made you take that down. They took that down, but like the video game segment was like hilarious because the point you made is so true. And I often like you don't think about that. Every single NPC you kill in a Call of Duty game is either an Arab or like a Russian.
Yep.
Americans are so desensitized. We are such garbage to them. We're literally just cannon fodder in their movies, in their video games. That if you just flip the script for 1 second, if you play as an Arab that shoots an Israeli soldier in a video game, it's enough for YouTube to just take down that video and for someone to call that anti-Semitic. Yet our people are subjected to the same stereotypic adaptations. It's just fun. It's just funny to see someone just not give a shit and like I'm always afraid of getting demonetized or getting someone in or getting in trouble or something. So it's just kind of refreshing to have you being out there just screaming at the top of your lungs. And we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, YouTube is probably the best platform to be the way that I am because YouTube is a truly international platform. They don't really, like Twitch, for example. The reason why Twitch could be pressured into doing what it did to the people on the infamous Sabra Hummus panel is
Insane.
because it's American.
Yeah.
But Google is horrible as it is. It's an actual multinational company. They can't really be subject to, you know, pressure from one country to get a video or a channel taken down that much because they just get in trouble with the other countries that they also operate in. So there's that at least, you know. I've been like this forever. It's sadly only becoming people are sort of realizing that I was right all along now, but that's not really the most important thing here, is it? It's at least they're realizing it with what's the shit that's happening now, in that everyone needs to sort of close ranks and just get behind the people of Gaza, the people of Lebanon, the people of the Middle East. It is at least positive that, you know, people are feeling that they can open up more and more and more now, that like people are less afraid. I've still seen people who are like very guarded with the way they talk about this stuff, but more and more people feel like, you know, you're gonna call me anti-Semitic? I don't give a fuck, man. Like
Um,
we're over it by now. We've seen what's happening in Gaza. Give us a fucking break.
because it's especially Arabs, like we feel like we have to be overly polite when we talk about these things, especially when we're abroad in the States or in the West. Because if you start yelling, or if it's this like, oh, you don't want to be a stereotypical crazy angry Arab, are you going to blow your like all the you can't call Hamas a resistance force. You have to call them terrorists, or else you're automatically labeled anti-Semitic or a terrorist sympathizer. It's just you're just constantly walking on eggshells. But I think it's too late to be polite. There's no time to be polite anymore about this. Like people are literally
Mhm.
getting massacred every single second. So like the time to be nice is over. We just need to call things out as they are. And I think that's important. One final question. Are you and Hassan doing okay? I know you guys had your beef back in the day. I know he's been reacting to your videos. I love Hassan. He reacted to a couple of our clips on the podcast, kind of helped out as well. So are you guys cool? Because I consider Hassan a friend of the show. BadEmpanada, you are a friend of the show. Are you guys cool? Are you cool with Hassan?
I mean, I never really had a beef with him. Like, I've criticized him a couple of times. I mean, the things that I criticize him on had nothing to do with politics, just to do with like lazy reactions where he gets off the chair. And that was like 2 years ago. I obviously don't care if he watches my videos now. I used to be like, come on, put some effort in, you know, don't watch my videos. But now it's like, I talked to him in private once, literally once. It's funny how Ethan like accuses everyone who doesn't like him of being like in cahoots.
Yeah.
Like he himself is ironically doing like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories against us. But like you know, I don't know Hassan. I just criticize him a couple of times, maybe once or twice on actual political issues, and the rest just on the reaction thing, and that's it. At this point, I don't give a shit if someone wants to react to my videos to get the word out about something, given everything that's happening in the world. There is definitely a problem of lazy ass react people on YouTube who just like play a clip and then laugh and then move on to another clip and stuff like that. But he's obviously not like that.
Yeah, no, he talks a fuckload. Bad thank you so much, man, for taking the time. You are a friend of the podcast, a friend of Lebanon. If you ever come for a visit, I don't know if you ever need to come to Lebanon or the area. It might not be
Hmm.
the safest time now, but if you ever do, you're more than welcome on the
It
show.
depends. I very much would like to go there and to go to the West Bank, but Israel would not let me in.
Yeah, you're not gonna get into the West Bank, but we can get you in here.
Yeah, at
So we
least it's
got
that.
you. Would be nice. Have a great night, my man. This is gonna come out soon, so we'll see you soon, and keep fighting the good fight.
You too. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, folks, that was the episode. Thanks again for I've been talking to all the Bads, BadEmpanada, Bad Hasbara. It's been an eventful week. Thanks again to BadEmpanada for coming on the show. Super fun talking to him and getting to know him a little bit. He's a super sweet guy. I know his videos make him seem like aggressive or unhinged. He's a very sweet dude. We love him. Do not worry. The podcast